So we're back out here today, gonna get our soil samples, show you basically the process behind that and the thinking behind getting your soil samples and why you should get soil samples, even though sometimes I don't because I'm a bad person. But here, check it out. This is what we're gonna do today, soil samples. Oh, got him! Yeah, so we've done quite a bit of stuff since the last time we were out here. See, last video we dropped this tree here. We cleared that brush pile. Well, we made a brush pile for the rabbits, and we began a little bit of a screening border to be on this west side of this food plot for the deer coming to the food plot. We also dropped a tree back here for the beginning of the screening to the edge of the field. Since then, we dropped, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've cut 6 more trees since then. We actually dropped 2 poplars to make a perfect, like, funneling fencing area. We hinged an oak tree and we hinged a couple maples, and those are staying alive right now from what I can tell, so it's pretty sweet to give more of that lateral cover for the field edge, making it easy for us to slip in. I tell you what, you cut a tree down and deer are gonna know it, and they're gonna be out here they're gonna check it out pretty quick because, man, there's deer poop everywhere. They've nipped all these green leaves off these limbs, and they're having a good old time out here. Okay, so there's a couple different trains of thought when it comes to why you should get soil samples for your food plot. There's gonna be people out there that say, yes, you can get food plots to grow without soil samples. Yes, that is obvious. I mean, ryegrass, rye and wheat and all these other types of grasses for food plots will grow in basements in the dark with no sun. That's just what they do, because in my opinion, wheat and rye are weeds. I don't like them, but the deer do, so it's fine. The biggest reason, in my opinion, why you should get a soil sample for your food plot is to maximize your soil to have the most palatable food plot available for the animals in your area. You can get some clovers and even white clovers to grow in a low range 5 to 6 pH, which means it's very acidic. It'll grow, but you will not see the amount of activity you would see on it if you had the prime 6.5 range pH level of your soil, less acidic soil. That pH level will transfer basically to that plant. The acidity or flavorfulness of that plant will be compromised because of the acidity of the soil. So in my opinion, that is the most major reason to have a soil sample done for your food plot, is to have the most palatable food plot. Another good reason is obviously, you know, you'll have a better growing food plot. It should be more luscious and flourishing. So that's another good reason, of course. So yes, getting a soil sample doesn't have to be done, but it most definitely should be done. If you watched my other video on the poorest of poor man's food plots, if you haven't seen it, I'll put it here. I actually, when I planted that food plot, I did not do a soil sample before I planted it. You can get away with that sometimes. In other places, you'll get nothing to grow, just nothing. Your best practice is always to get your soil sample done first before you plant anything, because then you know what nutrition, or the salt, the flavor of the food plot, you'll need to give the plants to give the best flavor for the deer and rabbits and pheasants and turkeys, whatever is gonna come out here and mill around, squirrels. The times that you're most likely to get away with not getting a soil sample and getting something to grow is, like I already mentioned, wheat and rye grain, ryegrass, which ryegrass is crap. Don't plant ryegrass, plant rye grain. Wheat, rye, and sometimes oats will grow. It's probably got the largest range of diversity for soil types to be able to grow, and deer will still hit that just out of necessity. Jeff Sturgis's videos on YouTube here, he has a lot of great information on that type of cereal grain application for food plots. And I should take a step back. I should give you guys just a little bit of information about myself, because I don't want you to think that I'm just some Joe Blow out here just reading off of Google. I've been doing food plotting and habitat projects for about 15 years of my life. I am 31 years old. That is almost half the years of my life. I've been doing it for quite a while. I'm not saying I'm a pro. I'm just saying I've dabbled, and I can give you guys hopefully some information that other people haven't. On top of watching this, you should go watch all those other guys that do it for a profession. They're right now, that's what they do for a job. So you've got a bunch of people on YouTube that do it for profession. You should also check their stuff out. The reasoning behind your soil sample should be clear as mud right now. You just want to get it done for the animals, or for you to grow the best food plot possible, luscious wise, or to taste the best. That is why you want to do a soil sample. So what you're gonna need to get yourself a soil sample. Number one, a gallon Ziploc baggie, or maybe 2 gallon Ziploc baggies, depending on the size of your food plot. We're doing a small food plot. This is probably 1/8 of an acre. So we're just gonna use 1 Ziploc baggie. We are doing this soil sampling test through an all-inclusive grain fertilizer facility. So there are a lot of plant nutrient fertilizer facilities in ag areas. If you have cornfields, soybeans, any type of ag ground, you will probably have a fertilizer distributor of some sort in that area that will not necessarily run these samples, but will send it to the laboratories or the testing centers to get the soil sample done. There are other options than just taking it to a fertilizer place and getting it sent out for sampling. I believe Whitetail Institute offers a service where they will take your samples and run them through the lab. You just got to mail them. And I have tried these tiny little containers. I think I still got some in the barn. If I do, I'll show them right here. They, you drop a tablet in with the soil and a certain amount of water, mix it in, it tells you what your pH is, or it tells you what your nitrates are, and so you kind of base your application of fertilizer off of these cheaper scale recommendations, basically. Specifically why I like to run my soil samples in a lab is because it can get very specific. You can tell them exactly what you're going to be planting on these food plots. You can tell them it's going to be clover. So they'll have certain recommendations for clover. You can tell them you're going to be planting brassicas. They're going to have certain recommendations for brassicas for fertilizer application. Corn, soybeans, anything else in the mustard family, rye, all the cereal grains, they can have each a specific type of application for whatever you're planting. So that is handy. It takes all the work and guesswork out of it. So anyways, we need a baggie, and we don't necessarily need one of these units. This is specifically for taking soil samples. You can use a shovel, you can use a spade. The thing is, what you want to do, this is a kind of a homemade unit. My grandpa broke the head off of it a while ago. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get a 6-inch sample. A 6-inch, and this is probably about 8 inches in my width of my thumb to my finger, maybe a little less. But you want a 6-inch sample of soil. You want that topsoil, that next layer, and the layer down, because your roots on most of your plants are going to be 6 inches to lower. Your taproot is definitely going to go lower on a lot of different varieties, but that top 6 inches is probably going to hold pretty much all of the nutrients that that plant is going to need. So we want to go 6 inches into the soil, and depending on the size of your food plot, you're going to need a bunch of samples. So with this one being 1/8 of an acre, I'm probably only going to get about 4 samples. I'm going to space them out in conjunction to the size of the food plot and the length of the food plot or the shape of the food plot. So this one I'll have one sample just about where this camera's sitting, then I'll have another sample probably 20 yards away, another sample 20 yards away, and then one 20 yards away from that center sample, trying to make it kind of, getting all the hot areas, all the main traffic areas of the food plot. Throw them in our gallon baggie or a bucket, mix it up, 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 put it in our sample bag, and we're gonna send it off to get tested. We're gonna send it to get tested. All right, so looking at this soil, it's pretty easy to tell it's sandy. If you don't stay focused on me, I'm gonna break you, camera. Sandy loam is probably what they would label it as. It does have layers of organic matter in it, just on top, kind of like I was mentioning, you probably are gonna see in the woods anyways. It's still actually not too bad, just looking at it. It's dark sand, it's not the greatest, it's not the worst, that's perfectly fine. Actually, here, let me show you this core. As you can see here, it's nice at the top, more organic. And the further we get to the bottom, we got yellow sand. We got yellow sand at the bottom. I've seen crap grow in yellow sand, mostly grain stuff. But through here, this first, that's probably 6 inches. I took a 12-inch core. Right through there, that first 8 to 9 inches is pretty decent dark sand. It ain't the best, it ain't the worst. It'll end up being okay. It'll be great for clover and what we're planning on planting here. We could do something, plant right now. A lot of people will plant buckwheat and then till that in later to kind of boost that organic matter, but that's not what we're looking for. That's more labor for me right now, and I don't have time to do it. It's not too complicated, really. I like to think of food plots as a garden. If you've ever planted a garden in your life, you know that you'll have a better tasting tomato if you give it the nutrients the plant needs. So that's the best way to think of it. And that's what we're doing for a food plot. This is a garden for the deer. These small food plots like this that I like to do are very minimalistic for labor. In the industry, they'd probably call them kill plots because deer are gonna feel a lot more comfortable in these smaller food plots, and they'll come out here earlier in the day where you're already sitting in your blind just a chilling, and you can smack a doe or maybe a nice buck, you never know. So for me, there's a couple different reasons behind food plotting, and for me, it's more for the animals. A lot of people view food plotting as just like, that's where I'm gonna kill my deer. I'm gonna hold more deer so I can kill them. But the benefits far exceed shooting a couple deer off of these food plots. I can guarantee this year there will be hundreds of different animals that use this food plot. Between squirrels, the rabbits, the turkeys, the deer, the bugs, the insects. You plant a clover plot and you let it go to flower, you're gonna see bees out there pollinating, so you're getting those, power to the bees type kind of thing. It's a huge encompassing ecosystem when you plant a food plot. And it's great. So if you don't already have in mind of planting one and you're just watching this to watch it, I would highly recommend, if you've got the acres and the time and feel like putting a little sweat on, go plant a food plot. Look at benefiting the things around you that you benefit from. We should always be giving more than we take. And that's a philosophical thought of mine, but planting this food plot is gonna be giving more to all the species in the area than I'm ever gonna take from it. Yeah, I cut a few trees down, but you know what that did? That created more light for regeneration. We sprayed some weeds. Yeah, you know what that did? It killed some weeds, but we're gonna be able to plant a food plot that's gonna be 100 times more nutritious than the crabgrass that was growing here that most critters aren't even eating anyways. So it's a circle. We enjoy it. So to wrap this all up, so I don't keep talking about philosophical things, we're gonna call it good. We got our samples. We're gonna take them to the fertilizer place, the grain elevator, drop them off there. Hopefully they can give you a little bit of tips too on top of it, or maybe some more advice. And yeah, so let's go do that. Let's go. You got to give advice to people. What's a good tip for soil sampling? Best piece of advice for somebody wanting to plant a food plot.
Food plot?
Yeah.
Wait for a nice, better day.
That's fair. We are doing 2 samples. One's for the big food plot that you guys have not seen. This one we're going to do the micros on. And then this is going to be a clover plot, so we're just going to get the basic NPK and pH. There we go.
There you go.
Do you want to add anything, Dale?
Make sure you pull same depth, keep them consistent.
Should the sample be dry? Is it best the sample be dry?
You don't want them saturated. That will dry them anyway.
Okay. Cool. And then Josh said he wanted to talk to you guys. Your office is a mess. Look at that. We don't have to look at the office. We can just look at these. You've done a pile of food plots like myself. What would be your advice for people doing food plots?
Lime.
Well, okay.
Lime's the most important thing.
Then for sampling itself, because this is specifically on soil sampling, is there any advice on specifically doing soil samples on your food plots?
Just get a good uniform sample. I mean, it's not going to be precise, but anything's better than nothing. And lime's more important than fertilizer. You can mine your minerals out of the soil. If you can't afford both, just lime it.
The one we're focused on right now is probably going to be clover, legume,
Okay.
and cereal grains for the first year. Still need a good pH level.
pH is everything.
Yeah, that's why you want to do soil samples, because you want to make sure you can even grow stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have stuff in your soil, but it's not available unless your pH is right.
Okay, for a guy that just wants to bring his soil samples into What would you even call this place? A fertilizer
Ag
distributor? Ag retail?
Yeah. Any
What
ag and
what would they
supplier.
expect from, like, questions from you guys? Do you want micros tested?
Yeah. What kind of test you want, and you want main thing's pH.
Yeah, so they'll probably take your information, which I work here, so they're not going to take my information. And they'll send the results to them.
You can get them email,
Okay.
call, and print them off. We're busy people dealing with farmers, so food plot people. We don't mean to blow you off, but
It happens.
sometimes we don't have time.
Yeah, so this is the option I choose because I can come here, I work here, I talk to these guys, bug Josh all the time. I'll bring my samples here. Like I said before, there's other options where you can send them in online. Or do like home remedy testing, which I'm just not a fan of the home remedy test. How do you feel about the home remedy tests? Have you ever tried them?
No.
No.
I have a lab at my disposal. I'm going to use a lab.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so we're wrapping up this video here. Sorry, it's kind of an abrupt ending, but it's been kind of a little bit of a chaotic last 48 hours. We've lost power, and I'm trying to get this video uploaded. I don't know if I'm going to get it up tonight. Who knows? The one thing that I forgot to mention that I really like why I take my samples into a farm center or ag retail is because it's a personal experience. And if you got questions, you can ask those salesmen or anybody or the representatives what's the steps you need to take to make your soil better. So take that to heart. Like Josh said, biggest thing's pH, but make sure you know what you can grow out there, what fertilizers you're going to need. And like Josh said too, if you can only do one thing, pH is going to be the thing to do. So we just await our soil samples and we'll fertilize and dabble a little bit more. So I'll see you guys on the next one and the ones in between and so forth and so on. Thanks for watching. See ya. Even for a throw and grow food plot, you should still do a soil sample for the most palatable food plot.